Hi, I'm Charlene. I am here in my shop, Spirit Guide Wellness. I started my business about 3 years ago. We're here in Tacoma, Washington. And today I'm going to do a presentation about CBD and hemp, other cannabinoids, and the healing properties. You're probably wondering, how did I get here and why should you even believe me? I have over 5 years in industry experience, both with hemp and marijuana, both considered cannabis plants. Both have cannabinoids and terpenes that have healing properties, and I've got my certification in CBD physiology and health. So I started in the marijuana space doing compliance with the Department of Agriculture for marijuana growing supplements. There I've learned about indoor growing, I've learned about lighting, I've learned about extractions, and also build relationships with farms. I've also received my certification, like I said, in CBD physiology and health, so that I may learn more about the plant and all of the healing benefits and be able to give the best advice for people depending on what they're going through, what kind of ailments that they have. But most importantly, I started this business because I got my mom off opioid pain pills. She was taking gabapentin and she was taking Percocets, several of them. And while we got her all dialed in with hemp and CBD products, we've been able to keep her off of those for about 4 years now. All right, so what is this CBD stuff anyways? Well, CBD, also known as cannabidiol, is one of over 200 cannabinoids identified in the cannabis plant. Cannabis, hemp, and marijuana have been used for thousands of years due to therapeutic healing properties. Illnesses and conditions that have been known to benefit are pain, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, inflammation, acne, and many other illnesses. All right, so one of the biggest questions people ask is CBD gonna get you high? No, absolutely not. CBD cannot and will not get you high. So there are cannabinoids in the cannabis plant that will get you high. Typically, those cannabinoids are THC. So you've got delta 8 THC, delta 9 THC, and THC0, for example. Those are decarboxylated cannabinoids, which means when you heat them up, they can be psychoactive and they can get you high. However, there are also THC in the raw plant form, THCA and THCV, that will not get you high. So of the 200 to 2,000 cannabinoids in the plant, there's only about a handful that can get you high once they're heated up, and typically those cannabinoids come from THC. So if you want to enjoy the benefits of CBD and you don't want any question as to whether or not you're going to get high, the best thing that you would want to do is take a CBD isolate. Basically what that does is it's a process that extracts CBD out of the plant all by itself. And that CBD can be put in tinctures, vapes, candy, what have you, and it will not get you high. Another question that people ask is, can you pass a drug test? Well, with a CBD isolate, you can definitely pass a drug test, as drug tests typically look for THC. So as long as you are taking an isolate, that's the most important part to remember when you're taking CBD. All right, so how does this CBD stuff work, and why can't you get a prescription for it? This is a question I get asked a lot. Well, CBD works because you have a system in your body called an endocannabinoid system. You have receptors within your body, every organ, in your tissue, in your skin, your hair, even your fingernails, that have receptors that work with cannabis. So this endocannabinoid system is in all mammals. So not only humans, but also your dogs or even your cats. So how does it interact with other medication is another question that a lot of people get concerned about. Typically, CBD will not interact with other medications. However, there are a few that you'll want to be careful with, such as blood thinners. So how much CBD should you take? Well, that's a really good question, because the way CBD works with each individual's body is different. That's why doctors would never be able to maybe write a prescription for this sort of thing, because the way it works with your body is based on your age, your ailment, and your genetic makeup. I bet you're wondering, can your doctor just prescribe you CBD? Well, unfortunately, doctors cannot prescribe CBD currently because of the reasoning with the dosing. Everyone's different. So what might take me 50 milligrams to get relief for back pain could take somebody else only 10 milligrams. So we always recommend microdosing, which is starting with a very low milligram and then working your way up until you're getting the results that you're looking for. Endocannabinoid system. I had mentioned that earlier, and a lot of people ask the question, well, what exactly is it and how does it work? Well, you've got CB1, CB2, and CB3 receptors in your body. CB1 is located in multiple locations throughout your outer and inner central nervous system. CB2 is most often found in cells of the immune system and can help inflammation, immune response pathogens, bacterium, virus, and other microorganisms that cause disease. CB3 is the third receptor. Currently, studies are still being done to see how exactly the CB3 receptor works, but what they're thinking is that it ties into mental health, and that's why some of these cannabinoids are helping with depression and severe anxiety. So what is the difference between hemp and marijuana? That's a question that a lot of people ask all the time. Well, the truth of the matter is that the plants look exactly the same. The plants are very, very similar, and they are both cannabis plants. You have the sativa plant, which comes from South America, that typically gives you energy and it's very tall. And then you have the indica plant that comes from the Middle East, and it's more short and bushy, and it's been used to help people sleep and also can make you hungry and tired. Both of the plants are cannabis. Hemp is defined as having 0.3 or less delta-9 THC. That is how the government looks at a plant and says, this is hemp, this is federally legal. Now, if the plant has more than 0.3% THC, this is going to be called marijuana. That is how they determine what can possibly get you high. So where hemp is genetically grown to have low THC, marijuana is typically grown to have high THC. Again, both cannabis, both look exactly the same and almost do the same things. So there's several ways to take CBD. And when we talk about getting high, right, that's something that people are concerned about. We talked about a CBD isolate. So isolates are available in many different forms: vapes, gummy, creams, and tinctures. But you also have something that's called a full spectrum. Now, full spectrum comes from the hemp plant, and it has 0.3% or less delta-9 THC, but it has all of the cannabinoids. So one cannabinoid hasn't been taken out of the plant by itself like a CBD isolate, but instead all of the cannabinoids stay in the extraction as well as the terpenes. So you'll taste different flavors. It'll have a specific smells depending on what the strain is. And then you've also got ratio. You can take your CBD in a ratio, which means maybe it's got part CBD isolate and it's got part THC isolate. And the amounts for a ratio, or what some people call a broad spectrum, can be different depending on what people need it for. So it could have 90% CBD and 10% THC, or vice versa. It just depends on where you're getting your product and what you're looking to get from it. The next thing I want to talk about is the difference between what you can get from a hemp company that's federally legal like mine, or going to the dispensary. And I think this is an important question because a lot of people go to the dispensaries looking for CBD and they don't want to get high, or they have a drug test, but typically, especially here in Washington State, dispensaries have a limit of 3% THC that must go in all products, even CBD. So if you're looking to pass a drug test, going to the dispensary for your CBD might not be the best idea. Also, in a dispensary, you might be very limited on the amount of milligrams that you can get in your CBD oil. I found in dispensaries here in Washington State that you can't usually get higher than about 1,000 milligrams. And I believe this is because with the 3% THC rule, that anything higher than 1,000 milligrams would also have more THC in it as well. So with a hemp company like mine, we make 3,000 milligram CBD oil that's non-psychoactive because it has that 0.3% or less delta 9. So we have a full spectrum, which is a 3,000. Also, we have 1,500. You can go as high as 5,000 milligrams if you want to, and still not worry about getting high or having a psychoactive effect when you're dealing with a full spectrum or a broad spectrum. With that being said, you could get high, or you could get a little lightheaded if you were to take too much of a full spectrum CBD, just because even though there is that 0.3% or less delta 9, when taking in high quantities, that adds up over time. Hemp products can be shipped anywhere in the state. Where when you get a product from a dispensary, it's highly regulated. So you can only buy it from a regulated dispensary, and you have to be over 21 years old. Where with hemp products, we prefer that people are over 18 to purchase, but they're typically non-psychoactive. You can get full spectrums, isolate, and broad spectrums. You can get THC-free products. And I always recommend, if you're wanting to get CBD from a company that maybe you found on the internet or that was referred by a friend, just always ask for the certificate of analysis. If a company doesn't have this paperwork that goes along with their products, that'll be your first red flag as to whether or not this is a company that you should be buying product from, because this is pretty standard. Thank you so much for joining me. I just want to mention again that I am certified in CBD physiology and health, and I do consultations by appointment. I do not charge for these appointments because I believe that we need to start educating people on their endocannabinoid system and how this plant works with your body so that people can make better choices for them.